Mark had never expected that the quiet life he had built would suddenly be shaken. For years, he had lived a simple life, quietly working as a mechanic in a small town. His days were filled with fixing cars, enjoying his small house, and taking care of the garden. It wasn't much, but it was enough. He had never asked for anything more. It all started when a young alien girl, barely a child, had shown up on his doorstep many years ago. She had been abandoned, left behind by an alien species in a distant part of the galaxy. Mark had found her cold, alone, and hungry. Her strange green eyes and delicate alien features had unsettled him at first. But he couldn't turn her away. At the time, he had no idea what he was doing. He had no idea how to care for an alien child. But Mark had done what came naturally. He fed her, gave her a place to stay, and most importantly, he loved her as if she was his own daughter. Over the years, they had become a family. Mark's adopted daughter, whom he called Lily, had grown up on Earth, going to school, learning to speak the language, and playing like any human child. Mark did his best to give her the best life he could offer. As she grew older, Lily began to show signs of her heritage, her unusual strength, quick reflexes, and heightened intelligence. But Mark loved her no differently. She was his daughter, and that was all that mattered. But as the years passed, Lily eventually decided to leave Earth. She wanted to learn about her own people, to discover where she truly came from. Mark had been sad to see her go, but understood. She had her own path to follow, and he had done his job as a parent. He had raised her the best he could. Now she had to find her own way. Mark had not heard from her in months, and life had returned to normal. He was content with his peaceful routine. That was until one day, as he was working in his garage, a strange noise outside his house caught his attention. The sound wasn't like anything he had heard before. It was deep, resonating through the air, almost like a low hum. Mark went outside to investigate. Standing in his front yard was an alien woman, tall and regal, dressed in dark, flowing robes. Her skin was a pale shade of blue, and her eyes gleamed with a strange intensity. There was an air of power and authority about her that immediately made Mark feel small and insignificant. She was beautiful in a way that was impossible to ignore. Yet there was something about her presence that felt heavy and settling even. "Mark," the alien woman said, her voice deep and smooth, yet firm. "I am Valana, and I have come for you." Mark stood frozen, staring at her in confusion. How did she know his name? Who was she? He felt a knot form in his stomach. There was something about her that was both familiar and foreign at the same time. "Come for me," he repeated, his voice shaky. "Who are you?" "I am the matriarch of a species far from here," Valana replied, her gaze piercing through him. "And I am here to claim what is mine." Mark's mind raced. "Claim what is yours?" "I don't understand." Valana didn't seem to care whether Mark understood. She stepped closer, her eyes never leaving his. "You raised my daughter, Lily. I left her with you many years ago, thinking she would be safe. But now I've come to take what is mine. And you, Mark, are a part of that." Mark's heart skipped a beat. His adopted daughter? Lily? Was this woman really claiming to be her mother? And what did she mean by saying that Mark was part of this? Confusion and fear flooded his mind, but he didn't have the words to express it. "I raised Lily. She is my daughter," Mark said, his voice low but firm. "She left to find herself. I'm proud of what she's become." "But you're not making sense. Why are you here?" "What do you want from me?" Valana's expression softened, but only for a moment. "I have come because our bond is not simply one of a parent and child. It is far deeper than that. You are always meant to be a part of my world, Mark." Mark's mind was spinning, couldn't understand what she was saying. He had been a father to Lily, nothing more. There was no connection to this alien woman. There was no way. But the way she looked at him made him question everything. "You are not just some stranger to me," Valana continued. "You are important to me, Mark, and I will not leave until you understand that." Mark stepped back, his mind in a daze. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, feeling a cold sweat form on his brow. "Just a man. I raised a child. That's it." You don't know it yet, but you have been chosen, Valana said. Her voice was calm, but there was a certain certainty in it. Your life, your purpose, is connected to mine. The bond between us is unbreakable, and it is time for you to accept your place in my world. Mark tried to process the words, but they didn't make any sense. His life, his peaceful life, was being turned upside down by this alien woman who claimed him as hers. He felt a sense of dread, but he also couldn't ignore the strange pull he felt toward her. It was like something deep inside him was telling him that she was telling the truth. I need time to think, Mark said, still struggling to wrap his mind around what was happening. I don't know what you want from me, but I need time. Valana's eyes softened for a moment. I will give you time, Mark, but remember this: our paths are now intertwined, and there is no turning back. As Valana turned and walked away, Mark felt the weight of her words settle on him. What had he gotten himself into? And what would Lily think when she learned that her mother had come back for him? Mark could only wait, knowing that his life would never be the same again. Mark sat in his living room, staring at the walls that had once been comforting. The quiet of the house, which had always been peaceful, now felt oppressive. Lenon's words echoed in his mind, each one more confusing than the last. She had come for him. She had come because of his bond with Lily, his adopted daughter. But what did that mean? How could he have a bond with an alien matriarch like her? It was also impossible. His hands trembled as he picked up his phone. He hadn't spoken to Lily in weeks, and now he needed to hear her voice more than ever. He dialed her number, but there was no answer. He felt his heart sink. Was she avoiding him? Or was she involved in something bigger than he could understand? Mark stood up, pacing the room. He had always thought that when Lily left, it was for a journey of self-discovery. But this was something else entirely. The arrival of Valana, with her calm confidence and mysterious claims, made everything feel like it was part of some larger plan that he didn't know about. Mark decided to take a walk outside, trying to clear his head. The sun was setting, casting a warm orange glow over the small town. As he walked through the quiet streets, he thought back to when he had first found Lily. It had been a cold, dark night when she had appeared at his door, a small, frightened girl with strange eyes. He had never imagined the bond that would form between them. It hadn't mattered that she wasn't human. She had been his daughter in every way that mattered. Mark paused in front of a small park bench, sitting down. The peaceful surroundings were in sharp contrast to the storm of thoughts inside his head. He had to understand what was happening, and he knew the only way to do that was to confront Valana. But how could he trust her? How could he trust someone who claimed to have a connection to him that he didn't remember? As he sat there deep in thought, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned around to see Valana approaching, her long cloak swaying with each step. Her presence seemed to fill the air, and Mark couldn't help but feel a strange pull toward her, like there was some invisible thread connecting them. I knew you would come, Valana said, her voice calm and steady. You are wondering what this all means, why I am here, and why you are a part of this. Mark stood up, feeling a mixture of anger and confusion. You say you're the matriarch of an alien species, but I'm just a man. I raised Lily because she needed a home. Gave her what she needed, that's it. Valana smiled softly, her eyes never leaving his. It's not that simple, Mark. You and I share a bond that goes beyond what you can see. Your connection with Lily was never just by chance. I chose you. Mark's heart skipped a beat. You chose me. What are you talking about? Why would you choose a human? No one's special. Valana's expression softened. You may not see it, but you are more than you think. When I sent Lily to you, I had no idea what would happen. But I trusted that you would give her the love and care she needed. And now, I am here to ask for your help. Help? Mark repeated, feeling a rising sense of fear. What kind of help? War that is coming, Valana replied, her voice serious. My people are at the brink of destruction. A war is brewing between the factions of my species, and I need someone who can help me restore balance. Mark shook his head, still not fully understanding. What does this have to do with me? I'm just a mechanic, a father to a young woman, who grew up in my care. You are more than that, Valana insisted, stepping closer to him. The bond we share is part of an ancient prophecy. My people believe that one day a human would play a key role in our survival. That human is. Mark stared at her in disbelief. I'm supposed to help you in a war? I don't even know anything about your people or your world. I understand your hesitation, Valana said gently. But you are not alone in this. Your daughter, Lily, is part of this too. She may not fully understand her role yet, but she will. You both are the keys to saving my people. Mark felt a chill run down his spine. And what if I refuse? What happens then? Refusing is not an option, Valana said, her voice steady, but with a hint of sadness. The fate of your world may depend on what happens next. I came to Earth not just to claim you as mine, but because I need you. Your decision could affect the future of not only my species, but also yours. Mark felt his mind spinning. He had never asked for any of this. All he had ever wanted was a peaceful life. And now, this alien matriarch, who claimed to be connected to him in ways he couldn't understand, was asking him to help save her people. I can't just drop everything and follow you into some war, Mark said, his voice rising. I have a life here, and I've spent years raising Lily. She's my family. Valana's expression grew more serious. And I understand that, Mark, but you must realize that your connection with me is not just about family. It's about destiny. You were always meant to be a part of something greater than yourself. Mark's heart raced as he struggled to take it all in. Could it be true? Was there something more to his life than what he had always believed? Would he really be part of a larger story, one that involved alien wars and destinies far beyond? Earth? I don't know if I can do this, Mark admitted, feeling a weight in his chest. But I need to know more. I need to understand why this is happening. Valana nodded, her gaze softening. And you will. We'll explain everything. Mark, but first, we must be prepared. The future of both our worlds depends on it. As she turned to leave, Mark stood frozen, staring after her. A part of him wanted to run, to forget everything that had just happened. But another part, the part that had always taken care of Lily, the part that had always been there for her, knew that he couldn't turn away. Whatever was coming, Mark was now part of it. And he had no choice but to face it head on. Mark spent the next few days in a daze. His mind couldn't make sense of the words Valana had spoken to him. She had left him with so many questions, and he didn't know where to begin finding answers. He couldn't stop thinking about what she had said. You were always meant to be a part of something greater than yourself. He had lived his life quietly, far away from anything that resembled grand destinies or ancient prophecies. He was a mechanic, just a regular man who had raised a daughter who wasn't even his by blood. He had done his best, and he had succeeded. But now Valana's claims felt like a heavy weight pressing down on him. Mark went to his garage, hoping that the familiar sounds of tools and machinery would help clear his head. He grabbed a wrench and began working on an old engine, but his thoughts kept drifting back to Valana. The alien matriarch had told him that he had a role to play in saving her people, that he was part of some ancient prophecy, but he didn't know what to make of it. He had never felt special. He had always believed that anyone could do what he had done for Lily. Anyone could raise a child in need. But now Valana was telling him he was more than that. Was it true? Was there really something about him that made him important to her world? Something that had been planned long before he ever knew? Mark wiped his hands on a rag, frustration building inside him. Why me? He thought. He wasn't a leader. He wasn't a warrior. He was just a simple man who had done the best he could with what life had given him. As he sat on a stool, lost in thought, the sound of a car pulling into his driveway snapped him out of his reverie. He looked up, and his heart skipped a beat. It was Lily's car. Mark stood up, his legs shaky. It had been months since she had been home. The last time they spoke, she had seemed distant, almost as though she was hiding something. And now she was back, right when everything in his life was starting to fall apart. Lily stepped out of the car, her face bright as always. But there was something different about her. She looked more grown up, more mature, her eyes still held the same spark of curiosity that had always been there. But there was a hint of something else now. something that Mark couldn't quite place. "Dad," she said, walking toward him with a smile. "I didn't expect to find you here." Mark forced a smile, trying to keep the anxiety out of his voice. "I was just finishing up some work." "What brings you here?" Lily raised an eyebrow. "I was in the area, and I thought I'd stop by." She looked him over, her eyes lingering on his face as though she was trying to read him. "Something's wrong, isn't it?"
What?
Mark hesitated. He didn't want to burden her with the weight of everything he had learned. He didn't want to drag her into the mess that had started with Valana's arrival. But how could he lie to her? She was his daughter, and he could see the concern in her eyes. "Sit down," he said, his voice heavy. "We need to talk." Lily nodded and sat beside him, waiting for him to speak. Mark looked at her, his heart full of emotion. This was his daughter. He had raised her. He had given her everything he could. But now the truth of her origins, truth of the alien world she came from, was something that was beyond his control. Mark took a deep breath. "Lily, there's something you need to know. Something important." Lily's eyes grew wide. "What is it, Dad?" Mark hesitated for a moment, trying to find the right words. How could he explain all of this? How could he tell her that her biological mother, an alien matriarch, had come to Earth with a strange, almost magical claim on him? "There's an alien woman," Mark began slowly. "She's come to Earth. Her name is Valana. She's your mother." Lily blinked, clearly confused. "What? My mother? I thought you were my dad." "You are my daughter, Lily," Mark said, his voice soft but firm. "But Valana, she's the one who gave birth to you. She's the one who left you with me all those years ago." Lily sat back, stunned, her face pale. "I don't understand. Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't know how," Mark said, looking down at his hands. "I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to explain it to you. I never wanted you to feel different. I raised you because I loved you, and I still do. It hasn't changed." Lily looked away, her gaze fixed on the floor as she processed what her father had said. Mark watched her, unsure of what to do. He wanted to comfort her, but he wasn't sure how. He hadn't been prepared for this either. Finally, Lily spoke, her voice shaky. "What does she want from you, Dad? Why is she here now?" Mark swallowed hard. "She wants me to help her. She says I'm part of some prophecy, that I'm the key to saving her people." Lily's expression hardened. "A prophecy? You've got to be kidding me." "I didn't ask for any of this," Mark said quickly. "I'm just a man. I don't belong in some alien war. But Valana says I do. And she says you do too." Lily shook her head. "This doesn't make any sense, I know," Mark said, his voice low. "I feel the same way." There was a long pause, and then Lily stood up. She began to pace, her hands clenched into fists. At her sides, "I don't know what to believe. But I don't like this, Dad. I don't like the idea of some alien woman showing up and pulling you into this crazy world. And I don't like the idea of us being involved in a war we know nothing about." Mark stood up and walked over to her, putting a hand on her shoulder. "I know. I don't like it either. But we don't have a choice. We have to figure out what's going on. Together." Lily looked up at him, her expression softening. "With you, Dad, no matter what happens." Mark smiled faintly, feeling a small sense of comfort. Whatever was coming, he knew one thing for certain. He would face it with Lily by his side. The days following the conversation with Lily were filled with uncertainty. Mark couldn't stop thinking about Valana and the strange world she claimed to come from. The idea of being a part of something so much bigger than his quiet life seemed impossible. But Valana's words echoed in his mind every day. "You were always meant to be a part of something greater than yourself." Mark found himself walking through the quiet streets, his hands shoved into his pockets, trying to make sense of everything. He wanted to protect Lily, to keep her safe from whatever was coming. But the truth was, he didn't know what was coming, had no idea what kind of danger they were facing. As he walked, his phone buzzed in his pocket. Mark pulled it out and saw a message from Lily. She had finally responded to his earlier texts. It was a short message. "Dad, meet me at the old park. I need to talk." Without thinking, Mark turned around and made his way to the park. The old swings and benches were empty, the place where he had taken Lily for walks when she was younger. It was a spot that held many memories, but today it felt different. It felt like a place where everything was about to change. When Mark arrived at the park, he saw Lily standing near the swings, her arms crossed over her chest. She looked deep in thought, her face serious. Mark walked over to her, his heart heavy with anticipation. "I didn't think you'd be here so soon," Mark said, trying to keep his voice calm. Lily turned to him, her eyes filled with determination. "I didn't want to waste any time. We need to figure out what's really going on. I can't just sit around and wait for answers. We need to talk to Valana." Mark's heart sank. He had known this day would come, but hearing it from Lily made it feel all the more real. "Lily, I don't know if we should just jump into this. We don't even know who she really is, or what she wants. What if she's just using us?" Lily's eyes softened, but there was still a spark of curiosity in her gaze. "I don't know, Dad, but I think there's more to her story. I think we owe it to ourselves to find out the truth. We've spent all these years not knowing where I came from. Maybe this is our chance to finally understand." Mark hesitated. He wanted to protect her. He didn't want to risk her safety in some unknown conflict. But deep down, he knew that Lily had a point. She had always been strong, always wanting to know more about herself, about her past. Now, more than ever, he understood that she wasn't going to back down. "We'll do it together," Mark finally said, his voice soft but firm. "We'll find out the truth. But we have to be careful. We don't know what we're dealing with." Lily nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. "I'm with you, Dad. I always have been." The two of them stood there for a moment, the weight of the decision hanging in the air. Mark had never wanted to involve Lily in something so dangerous, but it seemed that this was the path they were meant to take. He had raised her to be strong, to stand up for herself, and now she was proving that strength. The next day, Mark and Lily went to meet Valana. The alien Matriarch had sent them a message, asking them to meet at an old building on the outskirts of town. Mark didn't know what to expect, but he was determined to keep his daughter safe. When they arrived, they were greeted by Valana's presence once again. She stood in the center of the room, her posture regal and commanding. There was an air of calm about her, but Mark could still feel the tension in the room. Valana's eyes turned to him and Lily, her gaze lingering on them both. "You've come," she said softly, a hint of approval in her voice. "I knew you would." Mark stepped forward, trying to mask his nerves. "We're here, Valana, but we need answers. You say we're connected, that we have a part to play in your world. But I don't understand why we're involved in this war of yours." Valana nodded slowly, her expression serious. "I understand your confusion. But you must know that your connection to me, to my people, is not something that can be explained easily. It is part of something much older, something that goes beyond your understanding of the world." Lily stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. "Then explain it to us. Don't speak in riddles. We've been patient enough." Mark glanced at Lily, his heart swelling with pride. She was strong, no longer the young girl who had needed his protection. She was becoming her own person, and now, more than ever.
How?
Mark realized how much she had grown. Valana's gaze softened as she looked at Lily. "You have always been part of the story, daughter. The prophecy says that one day a human would help bring balance to our world. That human is your father, Mark, and you, Lily, are the key to unlocking it." Mark's mind raced. He still didn't fully understand, but he couldn't ignore the gravity of Valana's words. "What do you mean, unlocking it? What exactly are we supposed to do?" "There is a war coming," Valana said, her voice serious now. "My people are divided. Factions fight for control, and the galaxy stands on the brink of destruction. But you and Mark, you hold the power to end this war? The prophecy speaks of a union between our worlds, a connection between the human race and my people. Together, you can restore balance." Lily's eyes widened. "You want us to join your fight? To be a part of this war?" Valana nodded. "Not just to fight, but to bring peace. Your bond with each other is stronger than you realize. And with it, you can help heal the rift between our people." Mark shook his head. "I still don't understand. We're just two people. How can we make a difference in a war this big?" Valana's expression became even more serious. "The power of your bond is not something to underestimate. It is ancient, and it has been waiting for the right moment. That moment is now. Mark looked at Lily, seeing the uncertainty in her eyes. He could see how much this was weighing on her, just as it was on him. But he also knew they couldn't ignore the truth. Their choices now would shape the future, not just for themselves, but for an entire galaxy. "We'll help you," Mark said, his voice steady. "But we need to understand everything. We need to know exactly what we're getting into." Valana nodded. "I will tell you all you need to know, but time is running out. The future of my people, and yours, depends on what you choose next." Mark and Lily exchanged a look. Whatever was coming, they were in this together. The road ahead was uncertain, but they had made their choice. And now, there was no turning back. Mark sat at the table in his small kitchen, staring into the coffee cup in front of him. The weight of everything Valana had said pressed heavily on his mind. He had never wanted any of this. He had always been content with the life he had built. With Lily, but now. His world was being turned upside down. The alien matriarch had spoken with certainty about the prophecy, about the bond that was supposed to exist between Mark, Lily, and her people. But Mark had a hard time accepting it. He was just a regular man, raised by normal parents with no special knowledge of alien worlds or ancient prophecies. How could he play a role in something so grand? He heard the door creak open behind him, and Lily entered the kitchen. She was quiet, her expression thoughtful. Mark noticed the change in her since their meeting with Valana. She seemed more distant, more focused, and he knew that she too was grappling with the truth of their situation. "Have you thought about what she said?" Lily asked, her voice softer than usual. Mark sighed, rubbing his temples all the time. "But I still don't know what to make of it. It's hard to believe that just because we're part of some prophecy, we're supposed to fix everything." Lily pulled out a chair and sat across from him. "I know it's hard, Dad, but don't you think it makes sense? We've always known there was something different about me. Strength, the speed, the way I feel about things. I think this is what I was meant to do." Mark looked at her, his heart heavy. "I don't want you to be involved in this. You've already been through so much. You've already lost so much. I don't want to put you in danger, especially not in a war that's not even ours." Lily reached across the table and took his hand, squeezing it gently. "It's not just about the war, Dad. It's about the truth, about who I really am. This is my heritage, my people. And it's not just your problem. You're part of it too." Mark closed his eyes, the weight of her words sinking in. He had always thought of Lily as his daughter, in every way that mattered. She was. But now, he was starting to realize that she had her own story to tell, one that was far bigger than he had ever imagined. Valana said that the prophecy spoke of a union between our worlds. She said that it was our bond that could end. "The war," Mark said quietly. "But what if we're not ready for that? What if we can't do it?" Lily shook her head, her gaze firm. "We won't know unless we try. We can't keep running from it." "Dad, this is bigger than us. It's bigger than just you and me. We have to help, whether we're ready or not." Mark looked at his daughter, her resolve clear in her eyes. She was right. No matter how much he wanted to protect her, this was something they couldn't escape. He had always taught her to be strong, to stand up for what was right, and now it was his turn to follow his own advice. But the fear in his chest was hard to ignore. The war Valana had mentioned was coming, and no matter how much he wished it, a way it was real. Mark couldn't help but wonder if they were ready to face it. "I don't know what the future holds," Mark said finally. "But I'll be by your side, Lily. I'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe." Lily smiled, her eyes bright with gratitude. "I know you will, Dad, and I'll be by your side too. We'll figure this out together." As the days passed, Mark and Lily began to prepare for what was coming. They met with Valana several more times, learning about her people and the political struggles that had torn her world apart. The war she spoke of was not just a battle for power, it was a fight for survival. Her species, once united under a single leader, had split into two factions, each fighting for control of their future. One faction, led by Valana, wanted peace. The other, led by a rival matriarch, believed in strength through conquest. The conflict had escalated to the point where it threatened not only their world but the entire galaxy. Valana believed that the bond between Mark, Lily, and her people was the key to ending the war. But Mark still couldn't shake the fear that they were too small, too unprepared for what they were being asked to do. What if we fail? Mark had asked Valana during one of their meetings. What if we can't stop this war? Valana's expression remained calm, her eyes full of wisdom. You may not think you are ready, but the prophecy does not lie. Your bond, Mark, is stronger than you realize. The power of your love for your daughter is something that can change the course of history. Mark wanted to believe her, but the uncertainty in his chest remained. How could a simple man and his daughter have any impact on a galactic war? How could they be the key to bringing peace to a galaxy at war? Lily, on the other hand, was starting to see things differently. She had always known that she was different, but now the pieces of her past were beginning to fit together. She was part of something larger, something that could change everything. And that realization made her feel more determined than ever to play her part. I'm not afraid anymore, Lily told Mark one evening as they sat on the porch, watching the sunset. I know what I have to do. I have the strength, and so do you. Together, we can stop this war. Mark looked at his daughter, feeling a swell of pride. He had raised her to be strong, and she was showing him just how much strength she had. He wasn't sure if they could win this fight, but one thing was certain: he wouldn't be alone. And that gave him more courage than he had ever known. The future was still uncertain, but as he sat beside Lily, Mark realized that he was no longer fighting alone. Together, they would face whatever came next, united by a bond that was stronger than anything they could have imagined. Mark stood at the edge of the small field, watching as the sun slowly dipped below the horizon. The world around him seemed quiet, but inside his heart there was a storm of emotions. The decision they were facing now was the hardest one he had ever made. A few months ago, his life had been simple. But now, it felt like everything had changed in a way he couldn't fully grasp. Lily stood next to him, her eyes scanning the distance, lost in her thoughts. She had changed too, in ways Mark could see but couldn't fully understand. She was still his daughter, the girl he had raised from the moment she had knocked on his door all those years ago. But now, she was a part of something bigger, something far beyond Earth, a part of a prophecy that would shape the future of an entire galaxy. Mark wasn't sure if he was ready to play a role in it. But what choice did he have? Valana had made it clear they were part of the plan. Whether they accepted it or not, the war that threatened Valana's people was real. If they didn't act soon, everything could be lost. I still don't know if I'm ready for this, Mark said quietly, his voice filled with uncertainty. Lily turned to him, her face serious but understanding. I know, Dad, but we've come this far, and I believe in us. We have to do this. Not just for Valana or her people, but for everyone. Mark glanced at her, seeing the conviction in her eyes. She had always been strong, but there was a new fire inside her now. Fire that came from understanding who she truly was and what she was capable of. I never wanted any of this for you, Mark continued, his voice full of emotion. I just wanted to keep you safe, to give you a normal life. You did, Dad, Lily replied, reaching out to touch his arm. You gave me everything. And now we have to face this together. We have to make the right choice, not just for us, but for the future. Mark didn't respond right away. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to believe that they were doing the right thing. But the fear in his heart was hard to ignore. He had never been a fighter. He had always kept to himself, living quietly. But now, everything was changing, and he was being asked to do something far beyond what he ever thought he was capable of. Do you think we can actually do this? Mark asked, looking at Lily, his voice filled with doubt. Do you think we can? Really bring peace? Stop a war that's been going on for so long? Lily looked out across the field, her gaze steady and determined. I think we can. We have the power to do it, Dad. But it's not just about fighting. It's about showing them that there's another way. A way to bring peace without destroying everything. Mark nodded slowly. He had raised her to think for herself, to be brave, even when the odds were against her. Now it was his turn to do the same. As the days passed, Mark and Lily spent more time with Valana. learning everything they could about the war, the factions, and the prophecy. The more they learned, the more Mark understood the weight of their decision. Valana had been open with them about the stakes, about what was at risk. The factions of her people were on the brink of total destruction. If they didn't act quickly, their world and countless others would be lost. But there was one thing that still troubled Mark: the prophecy. Valana had told him that he and Lily were the key to stopping the war. But how? What was it about their connection that could make a difference? Mark didn't know. And the more he thought about it, the more confused he became. Finally, Mark couldn't keep his questions to himself any longer. One evening, as they sat together in the quiet of their house, he turned to Valana. "You said the prophecy speaks of a bond between us. But what does that mean?" Mark asked. "What exactly do we have to do?" Valana looked at him with calm eyes, her voice gentle but firm. "The prophecy is not just about physical strength or power. It's about understanding. It's about unity. The bond between you and your daughter is one of trust, one of love, and one that cannot be broken. It is this connection that will help bridge the gap between the factions of my people." Mark frowned. "So, what do we have to do?" Just show them we care about each other." Valana shook her head. "It's not that simple. The war is not just about physical power. It is about the heart. Your bond, Mark, and Lily's strength together can change the way my people think. You will show them that peace is possible, that unity is the way forward. Your connection to each other will be the symbol of that peace." Mark felt a sense of relief wash over him, but it was mixed with fear. Could they really do this? Could they show the galaxy a way to end the war without more destruction? He wasn't sure, but Valana's words gave him hope. "We'll do it," Mark said finally, his voice steady. "We'll help you. We'll do whatever it takes to stop this war." Lily smiled, her eyes filled with pride. "We're in this together, Dad. No matter what happens." The next few days were filled with preparation. Mark and Lily traveled with Valana to the heart of her people's conflict. The journey was long and difficult, but with each step, Mark felt himself growing stronger. Knew they couldn't go back now. They had made their choice. When they arrived at the meeting place in ancient, ruined temple where the two factions of Valana's people were set to meet, Mark could feel the tension in the air. The two sides were preparing for battle. But Mark and Lily had one last chance to change everything. It would have to show these people that there was another way. Standing in front of the gathered leaders, Mark took a deep breath. Lily stood beside him, her hand gripping his, their bond stronger than ever. "We are here not to fight," Mark said, his voice echoing through the quiet hall. "We are here to show you that peace is possible, that unity is the answer, not destruction."
4.
The first time, Mark felt a sense of power not in his strength, but in his love for Lily and the trust between them. He knew that together, they could change everything. The leaders of the factions looked at them, uncertain at first, but as Mark and Lily spoke, something began to shift. The air grew lighter, and slowly, the two sides began to listen. Mark didn't know if they would succeed, but he knew that they had made the right choice. The future was uncertain, but together, they had taken the first step toward peace.